Hello everyone and welcome back to the Belgian Beer Brothers channel. As many of you guys know by now, I am a rock climber, and whenever I visited a climbing gym in the past year, my attention was grabbed by a brand new beer that markets itself as a true sports beer. It even retails in sports goods stores like Decathlon, and yeah, that's more or less the last store I'd expect a beer. I am of course talking about Thrive Recovery IPA. Now they just launched the second version called Thrive Peak last month, and since Peak is set to replace the first version, today we'll be zooming in on the one that started it all in 2021. The Thrive Recovery IPA. Right off the bat, I must admit that this is a truly unique beer. I've often seen alcohol-free beers being served in climbing gyms and sports centers, and many Belgian athletes enjoy a good Trappist beer after their performance. But a real sports beer, well, that is pretty much a first. Thrive was founded by corporate lawyer Laurens Dore after he competed with some friends in the Ironman triathlon. They set their personal goals and each and every one of them made it, but training was of course hard, and in true Belgian fashion they were bummed out that sports and beer don't go well together. Of course, to prepare for an endeavor like an Ironman you need a whole lot of training, good sleep and a well thought out nutritional schedule. That schedule needs balanced protein, carb and fat intake, and alcohol isn't part of that. Since alcohol is a natural diuretic and prohibits the processing of lactic acids in the muscle, and it interferes with the synthesis of proteins, ethanol is a big no-no to rehydrate after sports. But after that 1000 chocolate flavored protein shake, Laurens set out a new personal goal: creating a decent sports beer. And so they did. Laurens contacted the University of Leuven, which has a specialized lab for brewing and malting, and in the meantime he found quite a sum of money from several sponsoring companies, and with the professors and some world-renowned brewers, a year later they had a finished product. On the marketing side, they rounded up a bunch of athletes in several disciplines like cycling and climbing, and earlier this year, after the success of Thrive Recovery IPA, companies like cycling sponsors Soudal and Bank Belfius invested in the development of the new Thrive Peak. They invested over $1 million, by the way. Thrive Recovery IPA is, as the name implies, an IPA, so a dry hop blonde beer. They opted for a non-alcoholic version for obvious reasons, by utilizing a special yeast strain that releases an absolute minimal amount of ethanol during fermentation, just like the Brussels beer projects Picobello and Piconova. In the end, Thrive Recovery IPA has an ABV of 0.3%, which makes it alcohol-free in Belgium or low alcohol in the Netherlands. They made it even sportier by balancing out the contents. Because of how the yeast works, a 330 milliliter can or bottle holds 13.5 grams of carbohydrates, and they add 10 grams of hydrolyzed whey protein and 2 grams of BCAA, amino acids which are so important for the recovery of tissue after sports. In total, a can of Thrive gets you 122 kilocalories, and for some reason Thrive is very secretive about where it's brewed, but just like many supermarket house brands, they don't even print it on the can, which was an ideal moment for Average Rob to parody with their Tout Bien video, which I'll post up here somewhere. However, Thrive states that it's brewed at a brewery specialized in low and non-alcoholic beers somewhere in East Flanders, around Ghent, and with ties to the Leuven University. So I am going out on a limb here and say I can imagine that it's brewed by the Proefbrouwerij in Locristi, where Dirk Nouts brews Boerbloem and all kinds of special beers. They often go uncredited too, so chances are quite high that it's brewed over there. That all being said, let's take a look. As usual, I do like this can design. It is very simple, however it is very modern. I like the white and gold, the ups and downs, or probably the peaks of a mountain ride. Now, looking at this can, I immediately noticed that I made one mistake. There's not 122 kilocalories in this per can. There is 122 kilojoules per 100 milliliters. So that results in 403 kilojoules per can, or 96 kilocalories per can, which is a decrease by 25%, which is even better. Indeed, 13.5 grams of carbohydrates, 9.2 grams of those are sugars, the whey proteins are 10 grams, and BCAAs are 2.4 grams. Ingredients: water, malted barley, hydrolyzed whey proteins, hops, yeast, and that is it. Now, as I said, it is developed by the University of Leuven, but they do say here, brewed in Belgium for Thrive. And that's it. They don't say who or where. For some reason, I find that a very a shady practice, but yeah, who am I? I couldn't find the 0.3% ABV on the can, which is a obligatory mention, but I did find it anyway. So let's see how this compares to a real beer. Now, I have to be quite careful what I say, because of course this is a real beer. This is a alcoholic beverage brewed based on more than 50% grains, and it is fermented, so nonetheless. Ooh, that is extremely clear. Can I get a nice head of foam on that? Yes, we can. Yeah, like I said, this is extremely clear. This, even in comparison to Vedette, this is very, very, very pale. Some bubbling going on. It is a very pale yellow, I'd say. Nice white foam. Quite large bubbles, but I did have to work to get some bubbles on there. Okay, it smells quite sweet and not necessarily like a classic beer, let's say, but if we do count this as an IPA, which it is, well, we are used to different kinds of scents, of course. What I get here is a bit of candy, maybe some candied apple, let's say. It smells quite sweet. It smells quite citrusy. And for some reason, I have to think about those lemon drops or lemon sweets. And on the fruity side, I am getting mainly pineapple, actually. Okay. Not what I expected, but, well, honestly, what do I expect from the world's first sports beer? I really had no idea what to expect. So, the moment of truth. Will I be drinking this in the future instead of my regular alcohol-free beer? Cheers. Okay, first impression, not bad at all. Very, very thin mouthfeel, very watery. However, a nice amount of carbonation. And it does come across as sweet and sour. This actually reminds me a lot of one of those Brussels Beer Project beers. Like, I can't remember if it's the Picobello or the Pico Nova. I liked one, I didn't like the other. This reminds me of the one I liked, so that's a good start. But it does come across like a slightly lemony, slightly sour, very thin on the mouthfeel. I do miss the malty taste here, and they call it an IPA, but there's not a lot of bitterness in there. I think that I would like this more if it just had a bit more hops in there, and yeah, maybe use some wheat or some oats to get a rounder mouthfeel. But of course, they may have fixed that in the second version, in the peak version, which, by the way, also has beautiful cans. So I will get me some in the following weeks and try that out. I do have one of these left, so I can pit them against each other. Now, it is alcohol free and it is very, very drinkable. Yeah, this does come across to me as a blend between a beer and a lemonade. Emphasis on the lemon. So I don't know if this is intentional, but I do get stuck on that lemon, even in the aftertaste. The aftertaste is a bit more hoppy, not necessarily beery. I do miss that malty component, but it is slightly hoppier, nonetheless still very citrusy, very lemony again. So probably suits well for cocktails, but that's a whole other story. And even though there was no chemical process involved in de-alcoholizing this beer, I still get that weird chemical side taste, let's say. Maybe chemical is not the best word to describe this, but I do get that odd taste in the margin, which immediately screams alcohol free. And we do know that it's possible to not have that taste. Think about the Van de Streek beers. I'll put a link up here somewhere. I haven't even tried or reviewed the best one yet. But my thoughts are all over the place when it comes to this beer. It's absolutely not bad. It's not fantastic either. I think this is quite average. I think this is a very nice project. I'm looking forward to tasting the second beer, the Peak. I like it, but I am not really motivated to drink this instead of, for example, the Van de Streek Playground IPA, which is the house beer of our local climbing gym. So yeah, how should I score this? I'm thinking of giving this a, let's say, a 3, because I think 275 is not enough. It is quite an okay beer in the alcohol-free segment. I do like the added value of the proteins and the amino acids. I do like the sporty component. But as a beer in itself, yeah, let's call this a 3 and an A for effort. Nonetheless, I am looking forward to trying out the Thrive Peak. So yeah, I'll keep you guys posted. As usual, if you guys like this video, let me know down in the comments or hit that thumbs up. If you want to see more, subscribe, hit the bell icon. You'll get notified whenever I upload something, which is every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 6 p.m. Antwerp time. And yeah, if you want to support the channel, just share a video somewhere and let that community grow. Cheers, you guys. See you in the next one.